Going on, peeps? Just finished eating some lunch. A nice, healthy McDonald's burger. um, like I said, due to the coronavirus, I should be in work, but there's a 14-day shutdown on all movie theaters and/or restaurants. So, figured I was doing some more research. This one, actually, I just kind of went down a small little rabbit hole doing some research. Once again, reading some more of this. And it kind of took me into a little bit of the Anunnaki and Egyptology. Honestly, a little bit of everything. But I don't know, I found something interesting. Someone else found it, but it kind of got brought to my attention. And someone else made a video on it, but I'm actually going to go one step deeper. So before I hear anyone going, oh, he's just copying someone else's video. No, I'm actually just adding to it, because I think it goes deeper than a 5-second clip of somebody noticing something odd. So basically, to get a perspective on this, you'd have to kind of study in general Lilith. Lilith is a Jewish legend, and of course it's labeled a legend because it was taken out of this book, or at least they thought they took all of it out, and they didn't, because there's actually a fragment which I found and I'm going to read to you. But essentially, Lilith is the first wife of Adam, before Eve, and pretty much it comes down to sum it up quickly, God created Adam and Lilith. Eve, or let's scratch Eve for right now. Adam and Lilith were in the garden, getting it on. And Lilith said, I want to be on top. And honestly, when I read the Bible, there's several things that Adam kind of irritates me with. I never really liked Adam as a character. Thought he was kind of crummy. Not a very good man. But Lilith says to him, I want to be on top during sex. And Adam says, no, I'm the man. I'm supposed to be on top. Which Lilith technically would be the first feminist. Definitely the symbol of feminism. But, yeah, so she got mad. God complained, or not God, Adam complained to God about her. So she was banished, from the garden. Technically the first one to be banished from the Garden of Eden. And she became pretty much a, she-demon, called the succubus, who pretty much visits men while they're sleeping, and the scientific explanation would be night terrors, but the supernatural explanation would be that it's Lilith, a succubus. Pretty much she lays on the men while they're sleeping, steals the seed, travels with the seed to impregnate neighbors, someone in the near vicinity, which I think honestly was something that somebody made up back in the day when they were screwing around on their wife and cheating. Oh, the neighbor got pregnant, let's blame it on a succubus. But the succubus too, it changes gender, so it would steal the seed, go to a female and do the same thing, but become a incubus, which would be the male version. But I don't know, that's Lilith in general, backstory of her. So this is Genesis. I'm going to start with Genesis 1:1 actually. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Well, right there, that's false. And you can get mad if you want. But the actual Jewish text says in the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. Which Elohim, if you get into Hebrew, like the language, Elohim is literally translated to gods. In the beginning, gods created the heaven and the earth. So a lot of people don't know that a lot of ancient Judaism and stuff branches from polytheism, multiple gods. And I personally translate that to the Anunnaki, which was pretty much a group of gods, the creators of man, which would be even further back than Judaism, which would be like the Sumerian belief system, which is like the first religions, pretty much. Which, get offended if you want, I don't care. It's fact that a lot of the Bible is pretty much plagiarism. They're taking stories from older religions and stuff. But this right here, Genesis 1:26 through 28, if you want to look it up in your own Bible, which I would suggest you do just to fact check me. I think you should question everything and everyone, even me. Don't even believe me. And God said, "Let us make man in our image." And this is actually in the King James Version. It got left in, our image. I've heard a lot of Christians say that, oh, he's talking about the angels too. Well, technically the angels could be, the Agigi or the Anunnaki, if you look at it from that perspective, because it's essentially just taking the same stories and changing it up a little bit. Let's see, so let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. So God created man in his own image, and the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. That's a tongue twister. God blessed them, and God said unto them, Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and every creeping thing that moveth upon the earth. So that's chapter 1. And I wanted to take a little side note here. And that story is actually plagiarism. It's copying an older story. I got some notes here of gets into Egyptology and ancient Egyptian religion. The creator god, Khnum, which would be spelled Khnum, from ancient Egypt. He created man and woman basically using a potter's wheel and clay. So the story of creating man and woman from dirt, from clay, which is where you get the phrase like ashes to ashes, dust to dust, so we return to. But yeah, he was basically a ram-headed god, and I know a lot of Christians are going to say, well, see, he looks like Satan, he's Baphomet. Well, let me nip that in the bud and pretty much say Baphomet was a 19th century, created in 1856 by a Eliphas Levi. So, no, sorry, he's not Baphomet. If anything, Baphomet was inspired by him, which if you spread out the word and use like etymology, Bapho, and then Mayat, which goes back to ancient Egyptian religion. Mayat, which is like Ma'at, pretty much kind of like a, I may be wrong on this, so correct me if I am, but I think it's like goodwill, like he has ma'at in him, pretty much like goodness. But yeah, so this is where it gets odd though. So right there, creates man and woman from dirt. And I remember kind of reading this as a kid and getting confused because I was like, wait, God created man and woman from dirt, but then later on in chapter 2, verse 21 and 22, and the Lord God caused deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs and closed up the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which the Lord God had created from man made he a woman, and brought her unto the man. So you got in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 through 28, he created man and woman using dirt. And then all of a sudden it changes it up, if you're believing that it's Eve. Chapter 21 and 22, that is created from Adam, his rib. So that right there, a lot of people say, a lot of Christians say there's no contradictions in the Bible. Can't even get through the first 2 chapters of the entire book without finding literally a contradiction. If you believe that it's Lilith, or Eve, and that there is no Lilith. I personally, my perspective is that it was the Vatican and or early Jews or something covering up the whole Lilith story. Like, oh man, we can't have this in there. So they took it out, much like most of the Bible. But I don't know. I believe honestly you see a lot of fragments of ancient Egyptian religion. I think personally from when the Jews were there for before the whole 40-year march into the desert. I think it's from them being there and learning it there, learning the Egyptian religion and culture, and then when they left Egypt, taking it out from Egypt and kind of like, well, we're going to write all this down, but make it our own version. But then again, most historians nowadays are saying the whole Moses story with the Jews being in the desert for 40 years and the Jews building the pyramids, a lot of historians are saying that's false. I don't know, you hear a lot of historians say it's false, and then you hear a lot of historians saying it's truth, so that I'm not even going to touch on, but kind of shows you too that ancient astronaut theory, religion, occult, old myths, the paranormal, the supernatural, everything ties together. And I've said this before in other videos, it all ties together. And the more you go down these little rabbit holes, you're going to realize that all those little holes and tunnels connect into one big room, everything's tied together. But let me know what you think. I'm sure I pissed someone off. Y'all have a good day.